All right, and welcome to Basic Arrhythmia 2019. My name is Leif Tobler. I'm an ICU nurse. I've been doing that for about 10 years now, and I'm here to run you through the most simple rhythms that are a foundation for any kind of interpretation. This is going to be part of a larger group of classes, which will include advanced arrhythmias and 12 lead EKG readings. So, on we go. Standard disclosure statement. The planners, presenters involved with this and this nursing education activity have no conflicts of interest, no extra kickbacks or anything like that. I am just doing this to help make all of you better at your jobs and hopefully add another tool to your toolbox. I'd like to give a special thanks while I have the floor here. Thank you to all the telemetry techs over the years who've saved rhythms for me because they've been unique or fun or challenging, and nurses as well. Lots and lots of nurses. I'll just come to my desk and they're just, hey, here's a rhythm for you with a sticky note attached. I've collected those, and that's what I've actually integrated into this lecture here, so you can see what real life looks like, because I think that's an important component to this. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you to everyone. I can't even list all of the folks who've done that for me. Wouldn't have this presentation without them. I also want to thank the education department at my hospital, Mary Lanning Healthcare. They've helped me keep organized, on track, and help distribute this information to the rest of the staff. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Throughout this lecture, I've got a mix of sources that I've used throughout this, and this is kind of a compilation of what I've gathered throughout the years, honestly. The primary one that I've used for this is going to be the Wall Raven. That's what I learned from originally. Basic Arrhythmia class, and many of the diagrams came from there. Additional on top of that, you'll see some diagrams that came from this book as well. It's absolutely fantastic, and this will really help a lot when it comes to the 12 lead portion of the class. Another one which a lot of folks have looked at for decades now is Rapid Interpretation of EKGs. That's that classic orange book. And last but not least is Up to Date. This has been a fantastic resource as I put this lecture together. It has the most up-to-date information. It's written at a physician level. It's like a rabbit hole. You'll dig really, really deep and learn more about rhythms than you ever thought you could possibly know. So all my information I took was current as of January 2019. All right, so for basic arrhythmia, here's the overall objectives. We're going to relate the electrical activity of the heart and why it appears the way it does on an EKG strip. We're going to learn how to classify these cardiac arrhythmias based on their origin, maybe the mechanism of how they begin, how they're conducted, and then of course touch on prognosis, because if you can't relate this to your everyday job, it's a little bit harder to find value in. The goal for this class is going to be recognizing EKG strips. Not so much the nitty-gritty of the counting and all that. I want you to be able to just, oh, that looks like sinus rhythm, or that looks like a flutter or VTAC. That's the big thing with this. And I really want you to be able to identify the arrhythmias that are frequently seen, but also those lethal ones that could potentially be life-threatening. That's the real big take-home here. And it's an excellent prep for ACLS for those of you who are going to be taking that. Okay, so the organization of this lecture. We're going to open up with anatomy and physiology. You have to have that foundation in order to understand how the rest of this works. You got to build upon that. Once we get done with the A&P section, we'll dig right into rhythms. Good variety there, followed by pacemakers, and then finally your online test that will wrap everything up. Now, each of these sections, when we talk about the rhythms, I'm going to start out with the atria. We'll do the sinus node, AV junction, followed by ventricles and the rhythms that those produce, talk about the bundle branches and what they can do, and then wrap up with pacemakers. Now, within each of these sections, we're going to do normal rhythms first, so you can understand what it's supposed to look like. Then we'll talk about single ectopic beats, multiple ectopic beats. An ectopic means it's the best example I have is ectopic pregnancy. Ectopic means it's not where it's supposed to be. Wrong spot, essentially. And then finally, when you have multiple ectopic beats, that can become an organized or continuous arrhythmia, and we'll wrap up with those within each of these sections. All right, so here's your organization of the lecture. This will stand, there's A and P to start with, then we'll go through the rhythms themselves. Pacemakers will go at the end, and of course there's your online test after everything's all said and done. Now each section is broken down. I'll start with the atria, sinus node, AV junction, which are essentially the same. And then you've got your ventricles as the next section. We'll focus on the bundle branches within that. And then last but not least is pacemakers. Even within all of this section, I'll talk about what's normal for that area. Then we'll dig into what a single ectopic beat may look like, followed by multiple ectopic beats, and how that can actually become organized continuous rhythms, or arrhythmias in the case where it's not natural. Okay, so your basic rhythms. So the basic arrhythmia class will cover normal sinus rhythm, sinus brady, sinus tach, a flutter, a fib, SVT, super ventricular tachycardia. Then we'll talk about our blocks, and that's going to be AV block, first degree, second degree type 1, second degree type 2, and third degree. And then finally we have our ventricles. I'll just do this here. You got your bundle branch, PVCs, premature ventricular contractions, VTAC, polymorphic VTAC, VFib, asystole, and then PEA, which is actually pretty straightforward. And finally, the pacemakers themselves. I do want to add one in here, and it's going to be PACs. Those will also be included in the atria.